For 32 years, I didn't know I was living as someone else. When I walked into a government office, the computer screen displayed a single word next to my name, dead. But I was there. I was breathing. And at that moment, I realized my whole life had been a lie. I wasn't Madison Taylor. I was a stolen child, and my real name was Harper. The fluorescent lights of the government office quickened my heart rate. Sitting on that plastic chair, I wondered if a single number could change my life. My name is Madison Taylor, and this day would change everything. "Ms. Taylor," said the officer, Mr. Henderson, his eyes glued to the computer screen, his face growing paler. "According to the system, you died in 1989. My first reaction when I heard it was to laugh. It was perhaps one of the strangest moments of my life, since it was a beautiful day looking for sunshine, 5 years after I was fired from my job. But there was no humor in Henderson's voice. "Excuse me?" I said, leaning forward in my chair. "I have documents proving this is wrong. My birth certificate, my high school diploma, a whole life story." He examined the records. They're all linked to the same Social Security number. And that number belongs to a child who was presumed dead in 1989. The room had grown warmer. A large, bespectacled woman, I remembered her name as Diane, appeared beside Henderson. Her expression was a strange mixture of panic and fear. She picked up a file. She whispered something to Henderson. Then they both looked at me. "Ms. Taylor," Henderson said slowly, "the records here belong to an identity that shouldn't be yours. A dead child, 6 months old." "6 months?" I retorted. "They never mentioned I was a 6-month-old baby. They told my mother that I weighed 9.5 pounds when I was born. I have the hospital records." Diane touched the phone, dialed a number. A quiet conversation. Rapid sentences. Then she turned to me. "Ms. Taylor, the FBI will be here in a few minutes." The word sounded strange. FBI. For someone like me, a man with no criminal record, who had been unemployed for 5 years and was now applying for Medicaid. But at this point, I wasn't asking any more questions. The initial clues had been gathered. They were starting to unravel the past. I had to wait. In a corner of the office, I heard doors knocking in the distance and printers working. Other people were living normal days. I sat in my chair waiting for my existence to vanish. Special Agent Ryan Brooks arrived, tall, his eyes a mixture of pain and a search for understanding. Wearing a black jacket and a heavy briefcase, he sat beside his desk with an air of authority. "Madison, isn't it?" she said in a gentle but firm voice. "There are a few things you need to know before I introduce you. It's all built on an identity that isn't yours. But you don't realize it, and that's a good thing." My throat tightened. "What am I not aware of?" Ryan opened a folder. Inside were records, photos, police reports from 1989, the disappearance of a baby from a supermarket parking lot, search efforts, an abandoned case file. "In August 1989, Ryan said calmly, a baby was picked up by its own mother in the supermarket parking lot." My whole body felt cold. "That baby was you, Madison. I was born with your real name, Harper Nicole Watson. You were 6 months old." The words floated in the air, losing touch with reality. When the brain offered no response, we simply stared at each other. Who took me?" I asked, feeling like I was on a map on his computer. "One person," Ryan said, showing another photograph. "Diane Clarke. Someone your age who lost her own baby in 1988 to an illness." The photograph showed a woman with long black hair and hazy eyes. She was also quite thin. Her facial expression, familiar, very familiar. "Is she the woman who raised you?" I asked, deliberately not completing the sentence, just waiting for a clue. Ryan nodded. "And now there's someone ready to call you." A door opened at the other end of the office. 2 people came out. A man, tall, with strong shoulders, his eyes wet with surprise. Beside him was a woman of the same age with curly hair and freckles. "We are your biological parents," the woman said, her voice trembling. "I'm Rebecca Watson, and that's David Watson. We've been searching for you for 32 years. The office suddenly felt very cramped. "Have we proven this?" I asked, his defense becoming clear. "DNA and all that? Isn't that something we can do just by talking?" Rebecca smiled, tears streaming down her face. "I know, it all happened so fast, but after waiting 32 years, I can be sure some things are right." David only approached with his hand, as if physical contact might be frightening. "When I saw you," he said quietly, The same mark on your face, one behind your right ear. When we took you out of the hospital, the nurse told me to have a picture taken. Sometimes I wondered if that photo hadn't existed. Could I have recognized you again without any proof? Now I know, yes, I could have. Ryan took my hand. Do you want to go to the conference room? There's a little more to explain. The conference room was empty, clean, quiet. Just a table, 4 chairs, a clock. The walls were bare. I invited Rebecca and David to sit down, as if I were the host. Perhaps in a way I was. Diane Clarke, Ryan said, opening a file. Lost her baby Nathan in 1988. Heart disease. Looking at you, she connected with you. She adapted to you. She carried written records using her own booklet. No one, not even her husband, Richard Clarke, questioned the veracity of it for 32 years. Diane was very compliant, very believable. David and Rebecca looked at each other. Tears, lost years, were expressed in a single moment. So, I said, my birth certificate? My medical records? Are they all fake? Ryan nodded. Everything. But unless people follow your growth, the system only follows your movements. Diane was a good mother, just as the mother of someone else's child. The tear on Rebecca's cheek broke my heart. David's shoulder slumped. How old were you when you were discharged? I asked myself. 6 months, Ryan said. Even then, the DNA, the file, everything disappeared. Or the red flag just asked for the files to be put on a computer, back when everything wasn't digital yet. Diane's lawyer was also silent. Nobody asked, nobody said. In the silence of the conference hall, I was transforming from Madison Taylor into Harper Nicole Watson. But this transformation wasn't just a name change. It meant the dismantling of the entire structure of my life, starting from scratch, being sought after by those who remembered me. I need to ask you something, I said to Ryan. Diane Clarke, where is she now? Ryan's expression changed. He was arrested. This morning. For kidnapping. 3 separate charges, considering all the circumstances. He raised you under a different name, in different states, after your family lost you. Didn't I remember Diane? Maybe. I remembered her father, Richard Clarke. Stern, quiet, almost always at work. But Diane? She put me to sleep. She saw me eat. She sent me to elementary school. She was my mother. I couldn't think of it any other way. You'll need to undergo a psychological evaluation, Ryan said. Trauma, identity confusion, those are normal. You'll have a lawyer. File consistency is important. It was all abstract, words and procedures. The real issue was Rebecca's freckled face, David's deep eyes. There were all the reasons to believe, but to believe. I spent 32 years as Diane Clarke. Maybe I just believed it because I had no other choice. Don't I have to go? I asked. Ryan nodded. It's your decision. If you want to stay here, the federal authorities have measures in place to protect you. But these people, he turned his gaze to Rebecca, want to see you. Rebecca held out her hand. Please. An hour, a day, a month. As long as you want. Nobody is forcing you to do anything. Just, please give us a chance to meet. David nodded, tears welling up in his eyes. For the first time, more than I'd ever felt in my life, I felt in control. I'd been controlled by Diane Clarke. For 32 years, perhaps with good intentions. But control was still control. Not anymore. Okay, I said. But it will be slow. I will reserve the right to ask questions, and I will ask for time to process this. Love and hope were written together on Rebecca's face. That hour, in a federal building, 3 people meeting for the first time sat in silence. No questions were asked. Hands were held. The touch of Rebecca's hand was different from the touch of any hand I'd ever known. It carried the unknown. Lost time. Night fell. The federal building lit up and emptied. Ryan asked me, where do you want to go? Rebecca and David had a hotel at the airport. Could I go there? I asked. Just a little bit. It was lovely to see Rebecca's face lighten up. In the hotel lobby, Rebecca had a room. Small, simple, but in a corner of the wall, there was a box as old as a computer screen, dusted with time. Inside were baby photos, hospital bracelets, birth certificate, and more recent photos of me, showing my age year after year. A dreamer's dream that never came true. Rebecca had kept this box for 32 years. It showed the various versions of what it could be. A baby, then a little boy, then a girl, then a woman, these progressions. Every year, Rebecca said with tears in her eyes, I made a birthday gift for you. I put these in, carried them around. They never disappeared from sight. Because if you were still alive, I had to celebrate you. David approached me from behind. For the first time, he placed a hand on my shoulder. A light, warm, peaceful touch. "Come," said Rebecca. "I want to see you in quite a few places." At the hotel, he took me to another room. When he opened the door, what came over me? It wasn't just a room. It was a rented room, left empty and waiting for 32 years. The walls are painted a light pink. Under the crib are teddy bears, piggy banks, everything a baby would need. The wardrobe is open, hanging small, worn-out dresses. On the table is a pile of diaries. 32 years' worth of diaries. Each page Rebecca wrote to me, just in case I came. I knelt down. I didn't cry. Maybe I did. I don't know. Here in this room, under the weight of 32 years of inconsistent expectation, I realized that my whole life had been a lie, but that this real children's room was more truthful. David hugged me. Rebecca hugged me. Family. There were no other words. Late at night, Rebecca and I talked alone in her room. David had gone to sleep. "What should I say about Diane?" I asked. Rebecca remained silent for a very long time. "You know what?" she said. "I can't even consider that negative. Because he loved you, he raised you, but it was theft. It was a choice. My daughter wanted you. He took you. Maybe there wasn't any malice in him, but there was a choice." "What will happen in court?" I asked. "I don't know," Rebecca said. "Maybe prison. Maybe a settlement. But I know one thing. You'll be here. We'll be here." At first, everything seemed like ordinary habit. The repetitive behaviors didn't seem suspicious to anyone because regularity always gives a sense of security. As time went on, small inconsistencies began to emerge. But these were consciously ignored because believing was easier than questioning, although an inner unease grew. Years of habit and attachment masked it. But as some questions remained unanswered, a silent unease began to take root in the heart. People can be quite successful at deceiving themselves when they don't want to approach the truth. However, every delayed realization lays the groundwork for a greater confrontation later. It slowly began to be felt that what had happened was not a simple misunderstanding. At this point, the issue was no longer a loss of trust, but the courage to face the weight of the truth. Because some truths, once learned, completely change the course of life. And from that moment on, nothing is perceived as it was before. The morning light streamed through the hotel window. When I woke up, it took me a moment to remember where I was. Then it came back to me. I was lying next to Rebecca, her real mother. But how many times did I wake up and think it was a dream? 5, 6. When I opened my eyes again, she was still there, sitting in her armchair, slowly sipping her coffee. "Good morning, Harper," he said, his voice trembling as he spoke my name. "Madison is fine too," I said, but it felt strange to me now. I still want to get used to it." Rebecca nodded, understanding. "Of course. You'll get used to it in time." David brought breakfast, coffee, toast, jam. The three of us sat at the table, like family, but still like strangers. The conversation was pleasant, simple, and straightforward. What was the weather like? What did David's company do? Construction? Contracting? Rebecca said she worked at the library. Normal lives. People would have thought I'd spent 32 years selling shoes. But actually, I'd spent all my time searching and waiting. "Would you like to visit Diane?" David asked later that morning. I didn't know the answer to her question. Part of my mind said yes. It would be too long a door-closing affair. Another part didn't want to close it at all. Diane Clarke wasn't my mother, but Diane was the one who dreamed high, who nurtured people, who was there for me in my illnesses. "Maybe," I said. "Not yet." Agent Ryan picked us up at 10 a.m. at the federal building. We were met by someone called a legal representative. High-headed, articulate, carrying files. He said the DNA test results were ready. A 99.97% match. There was no doubt that Rebecca and David weren't the real parents of Mom and Dad. I signed the paperwork. I filled out petitions to change my name to Harper Nicole Watson. Maybe I could continue using Madison afterward. Or maybe I could start over. "You'll need therapy," the representative said. "The trauma of identity change is a serious matter. We can find people who specialize in this." I shook my head. Another therapist, other questions, other openings. But this time I had a choice. When Rebecca, David, and I walked out of the FBI office, the outside world was real for the first time. Cars, people, life was moving fast. Everything seemed normal except for my 32-year-long lie. "Would you like to go to our house?" Rebecca asked softly. "It's in Oklahoma City. But it will take time. You could take a train or a plane." "The train," I said unconsciously. A way to break the habit of making quick decisions. We were on the train, traveling all night. Rebecca sat beside me, not speaking, just making her presence felt. David rested on the other side. As I looked out the window, cities and towns passed by. Each one took me a little further away from home. Diane's house, Richard Clarke's house, my sister Emma's house, Diane's real daughter, my stepsister. Yes, I had a sister I never knew. Agent Ryan said Emma was trying to reach me. The messages on social media were rapid and anxious. "Please answer," she said. You had no choice. On the train, I asked Rebecca about Emma. About her, Rebecca said carefully. Emma was 16 when she learned the truth about you from Diane, who raised her. According to Agent Ryan, Diane told her. Emma told her family, but nothing was done. They were afraid, perhaps. Diane's lawyer was powerful. Emma didn't know what to think about you. A heavy silence fell. "Is she my sister?" "In a topsy-turvy way," Rebecca said. "But yes, in a way, yes. You and Emma, you shared a place that didn't belong to either of you." We arrived in Oklahoma City. Rebecca and David's house stood in a quiet neighborhood, a white roof, light green lawn, and a path leading through the woods. When the door opened, I saw the decor for the first time. Family photos covered the walls, except that they were all photos of me, at different ages with different hairstyles, different smiles. They were a map of 32 years of anticipation. "This," Rebecca said, holding my hand, "started the day we found you. Every year we've fantastically aged you, imagined what you could do, what sports you might like. Maybe it was crazy, but he wasn't crazy," I said, scrolling through the pictures. This is beautiful." They showed me the room. The walls were painted light blue, and the forest was visible through the window. The bed was new, the sheets clean, the toys organized, but it was clear that this room had never been lived in. A ghost room, revealing the emptiness that lay beneath the labor and love. "It's up to you to decide whether you want to change it or not," said David. "If you like, we can decorate it however you want. It's your space." With teary eyes, I shook my head. On the first day, Rebecca led me out into the streets, holding my hand. Neighbors came out, I recognized them. But when we greeted them, they looked at me differently, with unanswered questions. Rebecca kept it simple and straightforward. "This is my daughter. I have to say this because she hasn't joined us before." A woman, Mrs. Patterson, lowered her gaze to her lair. She knew something had gone terribly wrong. "We need to go to the store," Rebecca said that afternoon. "Some dresses, a few things. A fresh start." At the mall, Rebecca let me choose shoes. Let me choose dresses. She didn't force me to choose anything. Everything was a matter of choice. I'd never experienced anything like that in my life. Diane, even after she became a mother, would say, "You're going to wear this," or "You'll like this." Rebecca would ask, "Do you like this? Is it comfortable? Do you want it?" It was hard to bring a smile to my face, but when I saw love in Rebecca's eyes, I smiled. On the third day, Emma tried to talk to us. Emma, 23, a soldier, quiet eyes, similar in her true DNA to Diane. We met at the coffee shop, a neutral ground. "I," Emma said, holding her hand tightly, "couldn't make any choice about you. But Mother loved you, and I love you too. Even if not as a sister, then in some other way." "I know," I said, and I admit it. I wasn't blaming Emma. She was a victim of victims. "Diane," Emma said, "she didn't question what happened when you left. She was just disappointed. When I realized from the start that she took you, I told her, 'You have to do this. You have to go to the police,' but she was just scared. She got old. It was like the best thing she could do with you and me was just run away." She's teary-eyed. I'm teary-eyed too. "What is Diane's court date?" I asked. 2 weeks, Emma said. His lawyer is trying to offer a settlement. Maybe jail time, maybe parole. Nobody's saying for sure. That night, Rebecca and I waited a very long time after I asked the question. "I want to see Diane in court," I said. "I want to look at her." Rebecca nodded, as if she had been waiting for this day all her life. "Okay, but only if you're ready." The courthouse was gray stone, formal and heavy. The audience rows weren't full. A few journalists. A few observers, Emma, David, Rebecca, and me. And in the front row sat Diane Clarke. For the first time in my life, I saw him as an enemy. Old, broken, burdened with guilt. His lawyer spoke. Appeals, health problems, no malicious intent. He loved me but acted wildly. The judge asked me, "Do you want to speak as a victim or related party?" I stood up. My legs were trembling, but I walked. "My name," I said, "for 32 years was Madison Taylor, but my real name is Harper Nicole Watson. She took me in when I was a 5-day-old baby. I wasn't 6 months old. 6 months old, as the doctor said, as it says in all my medical records. Maybe that detail isn't important, but that's what started it all." Diane looked at me. There was faith in her eyes, not just guilt, but faith. It was as if I owed her something, or perhaps as if I were still her daughter. "You," I continued, "loved me. I know that. But love is not theft. Love is not an excuse to take someone else's daughter. When I was 6 years old, you attacked my mother, or when I was 9, 12, 15, 18. I asked, why me? And you never gave me a truthful answer. You lied." Diane's head had dropped. "I didn't come here today for her," I said, raising my voice. "I didn't come for her. I came here because Richard Clarke, my father, a man I have no blood relation to, loved me. I came here because Emma Clarke grew up loving me, even when she knew she had adopted me. I came here because Rebecca Watson and David Watson didn't stop searching for me for 32 years. They loved me. You loved me too, but you did the wrong thing." In the silence of the courtroom, the judge nodded. "It will be recorded. Sentencing in 3 weeks." When we left the courtroom, Emma ran and hugged me. "You did well," she said. "You did very well." Rebecca and David embraced me not with forgiveness, but with understanding. That night, when I got home, I sat in my bedroom and, for the first time, I truly cried. I poured out 32 years of my life, all the lies, all the obligations, all the fear and silence in my tears. Rebecca stopped and stood in the doorway. "Can you come closer to me?" I said, my voice trembling. She came closer and hugged me. Her scent was that of motherhood and home. Perhaps she would have smelled like that if she had a choice. I touched her and started therapy. A psychologist named Dr. Lawrence Nelson in his 50s, with deep but warm eyes. In our first session, he asked me, "What is identity loss? What do you know about it?" I said, "am not two people." But neither of them was my choice. "Yes," said Dr. Nelson, "but now? Which one do you want to be now?" This was the basis of the entire treatment. Which one? Harper, Madison, or some kind of combination of both? Weeks passed. Rebecca would wake me up in the morning and bring me a cup of tea. David would laugh at dinner and tell strange stories from his past. Emma would go out on weekends, have coffee, and tell me about her experiences in the army. Slowly but surely, a new life was taking shape. Diane received a 12-year sentence at her sentencing hearing. A plea bargain was accepted. Perhaps parole would be possible after 6 years. Emma was in tears as we left the courtroom. "Don't hate him," I told her. "Don't waste your time." Emma nodded. As the months went by, Rebecca and I found a rhythm. Mornings, coffee, reading, walks in the garden. Afternoons, going to therapy. Evenings, family dinners. Repetitive but relaxing. One morning, Rebecca asked me, "Should I say Harper or Madison?" I thought about it for a long time. "Harper," I said. "I'm ready to be Harper now." That night, the official final version of my DNA test results arrived. A 99.97% match. Mathematically proven. But I didn't just believe it. I believed it when I looked into Rebecca's eyes and recognized myself in her. My name has been officially changed. Harper Nicole Watson. Perhaps later, at our own discretion, I could have chosen double names. But for now, I've chosen Harper. The choice to get back my old daughter. The baby stolen by Diane. One night, I told her I wanted to see Rebecca's diary. She slowly brought me the folder. It was a 32-year-old diary, with letters written to me on every page. "My dearest Harper," the first one began. "Today would be your birthday. I would give anything to see you in my life one more time." As the pages went up, the writing became softer, but it continued. All that time, Rebecca had been writing to me, talking to me, waiting for me. 32 years. I cried, because life was unfair. But at the same time, like Rebecca's love, there was a turning point. Diane Ryan came to check on me one more time before ceasing her efforts to find me. The formal investigation was closed. Diane Clare was on her case. I've recovered tremendously." 32 years, said Ryan. "That's a very long time to live in someone else's life." "Yes," I said. "But now, finally, I can live my own life." In the fall, Rebecca's friends wanted to get to know me. House parties, coffee gatherings, reintroducing neighbors, but this time under Harper's name. Except for a few social occasions, I preferred to stay home. Rebecca understood that. She gave me time. When winter came, the first snow fell. Rebecca and David showed me photos of themselves collecting snow. Me when I was 5. Collecting snow, playing, laughing. Photos of the lives they imagined, of lost Christmas mornings, of birthdays that were never celebrated. We celebrated Christmas every day since we lost you, Rebecca said that night. Now, I said, every day can be Christmas. By the end of the year, being Harper Watson felt very different from where I started. I am now. I wasn't someone who officially gave birth openly, according to a doctor 32 years ago. But he is a victim of someone else's choice. However, I wasn't one to back down, but he's someone who walks with hope. One night, while sitting next to Rebecca, I asked, what if I hadn't come? What if Diane hadn't found you? What if all this investigation, and the federal building and Agent Ryan, weren't there? Then, said Rebecca, I would continue searching for you, with David until my last breath. Because you are not my daughter only by blood. You are my daughter because love created you. Not blood, but choice that made you the one who loves. I opened my mouth, then closed it. Then, I love you too, I said. For the first time, I said the word intentionally. To Rebecca and David, my real parents, after 32 years. I love you too, Harper, said Rebecca. When confronting reality begins, the first feeling that arises is not shock, but a profound sense of emptiness. When a person realizes that a system they have long trusted never actually existed, it feels as if their past has been erased in an instant. This realization leads to questioning not only the present, but every moment of the past. The thought that behaviors, given meaning, actually carry other meanings begins to weigh on the mind. In time, anger gives way to a heavy acceptance, because the truth is now undeniably clear. At this stage, a person questions their own silence more than the other person's. They wonder why they didn't listen to their feelings before. But this questioning is not an accusation, but an awakening. What has happened shows not the person's weakness, but how long they have been able to endure. And this awareness is a sign that a new strength is beginning to emerge. A year later, living as Harper Watson no longer felt strange. Perhaps the strangest thing was that living as Madison Taylor now felt strange. For the first time, her reflection in the mirror was both familiar and foreign. Perhaps because I now knew myself. In Rebecca's garden, spring flowers were blooming. David was placing chairs on the terrace, backing away to prepare for a picnic. Emma was laughing in the distance on a video call, talking about her new assignment in the army, normal life, real life. Harper, Rebecca said, holding my hand with the teacup in it. There's something I need to tell you. My heart raced. Even a year later, I was still afraid of bad news. I heard Diane has been deemed eligible for parole by the judge, Rebecca said gently. She could be out in 6 months. I dropped the teacup. It broke. Okay? Rebecca asked, opening her arms. Yes, I said. But yes, it was very complicated. Diane would come out. She would be out in the world, living. Maybe she would want to see me. Maybe not. We won't let him do anything to you, Rebecca said firmly. But it's up to you. Do you want to see him? This time the answer wasn't ready. A door opened within her. Perhaps one that never closed. Diane Clarke wasn't a mother, but she is the mother of our entire lives. Even now. I don't know, I said honestly. Not yet. Weeks later, after talking to Dr. Nelson, discussing it with Rebecca and David, and asking Emma, I made a decision. I wanted to see Diane, but with my own rules. In the federal building's visiting room, I saw the aged Diane behind her glasses. A year in prison had changed her. Her hair was completely white, her skin thinner, her eyes more lost. When she saw me, her face opened and closed, like a prey in a second. Harper, he said, struggling to pronounce my name. Did you know as much about me as I lived as Madison? I said without sitting down. I knew it, Diane admitted softly. I always knew it, but as I lost you, that name, it felt more and more right to me. Her eyes were wet. So were mine, but I didn't cry. Why? I asked. Why did you take me? Diane took a deep breath. Because Nathan died and I wanted to live. Maybe in a crazy way, maybe it wasn't a choice. But you existed and I wanted to exist, and this... She was cut short. I became the result of this, I said. A life stolen from another life. Without being asked. I know, Diane said, pushing back tears. I know, and I'll live with that every day. But I want to tell you, I loved you, Harper. I loved Madison. It doesn't matter which one, I loved you. These words were extremely simple and extremely destructive. I don't want forgiveness, I said. If you ask me, would I choose a life built on lies but filled with love, rather than a life built on truth but without choice? I don't know. Perhaps I would prefer both, choice and love, without lies and truth. Diane nodded. But, I continued, I don't forgive you. I can't. But I'm beginning to understand you. This isn't the same thing. Diane's shoulders slumped, perhaps relieved. Or perhaps heavier. In the final minutes of the visit, she asked me, "Will you visit me again?" "I don't know," I said, and that was the most honest answer. When I stepped out of the building, Rebecca was waiting for me in the car. Nobody spoke. There was nothing to say. Our eyes simply met, and understanding flowed. That night, Rebecca and I sat on the back porch. The sun was setting. The sky felt yellow and orange. It had never been so beautiful. "Did you have me draw my mother?" I asked Rebecca. He was surprised. "Of course, if you want." I started art therapy. An artist therapist named Dr. Lucy gave me paint, brushes, and canvas. I had never been a painter, but it was like drawing souls. The first painting was Diane, but not tearful Diane, but the Diane she held in her hands when I was 6 months old. The second painting was Rebecca and David, the weight of all hope. For every day, every year they searched for me. The third picture is me, but which one is me? Madison, Harper, or both? The girl in the picture carried fragments of both identities, a face, 2 shadows. Dr. Lucy looked at it and laughed. "This," she said, "is the best." When the summer house arrived, Rebecca surprised me. A structure. An extension designed by David, a workshop for me. White walls, large windows, light streaming in from above. An art studio, my space. "I've noticed you want to do more painting," Rebecca said. "Maybe you could do that. Art therapist, maybe a painter." Think about it. For the first time, I was able to think about the future. Not just survival, but living, choosing, building. In the studio, I set up my paints. I started working. Big paintings, colorful, emotional. Each painting was a piece of conversation, because I was still struggling to communicate with words. But colors had a language. They told me I have an exhibition in September, a small gallery in the city. My paintings. For the first time, things I've done would be on display to the public. On the night of the exhibition's opening, Rebecca and David stood beside me. Emma, in her military uniform, had tears in her eyes. Emma, the compassionate sister. About 30 people came. Neighbors. Rebecca's friends, therapists, art teachers. Even Agent Ryan came in a suit, trying to hide his smile. Pictures hung from wall to wall. Diane's, Rebecca's, and David's. Mine, each a story, each a pain. Each a resolution or a reconnection. A girl about 15 years old approached me. "What is this picture?" she asked, pointing to a picture of Diane. "The loss of a mother," I said, "and the claim of another child. Both bad and good at the same time." The girl shook her head. "I don't understand," she said. "Nobody can understand it," I said. "Maybe even I will never fully understand it. But that's fine." At the end of the exhibition, a woman approached. She was in her 30s, freckled, her eyes carrying the weight of her soul's past. "I know you," he said. "I heard about you from Agent Ryan, the girl who was lost for 32 years. I nodded. "My son has been missing for 6 months, she said, her voice trembling. I told the police, but they said it could be child trafficking. But nobody listened. I'm not trying to show his pictures, but maybe that will help." That night, Harper Watson finally, really got up and spoke. In the middle of the exhibition, in front of everyone, she told her story. Not 128-word sentences, but a heartfelt speech. About loss, about finding, about forgiveness, about living. Agent Ryan gave me a wink and smiled, job done. The woman then hugged me tightly. "Thank you," she said. "There's no other hope for my son. But to have someone like you, it will be found," I said. "Someone will look for it. Maybe it will be too late, maybe it will be too painful, but there will be someone looking." At the end of September, Diane's parole was finalized. A month later, she would be free. At that point, I wasn't upset. I'd learned everything. Diane would exist, but not in my life. She would live her own way, and I would live mine. In October, Rebecca asked me, "Do you want to visit Diane after she gets out?" "No," I said, and it felt simple. "But I can allow him to contact Emma. Perhaps, within hours, Emma can walk with him. As another beginning, not another escape." At the end of the trip, the missing children. Foundation of America wanted to show my exhibition and stories in writing. A book, a documentary, maybe a podcast, promotion and awareness. To turn my 32-year lie into a way to find other people's missing children. Yes, I said. But as Harper Watson, not Madison Taylor. Harper Watson. My real name, the name that was taken back. That winter, about a year later, I surprised Rebecca and David. It was their first anniversary of finding me. I baked a cake, a self-made one, in all sorts of awkward shapes, but with love, and invited them over for dinner. "What is this?" asked David, surprised. "This," I said, "is my choice. It's the anniversary of you finding me. This should become a family tradition." Rebecca's face looked like it was about to break. David put his arm around her shoulder. Emma, in the video, was laughing and crying at the same time. After we ate pasta, Rebecca gave me a box. Inside were perhaps 100 pages, all those 32 years' worth of diaries, writings, every letter she'd written to me. Prepared to be read, prepared to be shared. "These," Rebecca said, "are part of your story. But now you can be the writer, too." Tonight I started. I sat down at my writing desk and began. "For 32 years," I wrote, "I was someone else. But today, for the first time, I am just myself." The pages filled up. Stories of stories, the pain of pain, the healing of healing. I wrote Diane. I wrote Rebecca and David. I wrote Emma and myself. Words never published, sentences never shared, just between me and me. In March, a letter arrived. From Diane, written in prison with a shaky hand. "My dearest Harper," it began. "I know you have no right to write to me, but I still want to. I loved you as a choice. Perhaps it was a bad choice. Perhaps it was the basis of a mistake. But there was a choice. I loved you. That will never change. If I live on in your face, even if you don't like it, I can live on." The letter burst into flames. The paper, the flawed handwriting, all its weight. Rebecca was waiting outside. "What does it say?" he asked, not with curiosity, but with concern. "He's writing," I said. "There's nothing for me to say. Maybe he's just trying to get started, too." When spring arrived, I plastered new paintings in my studio. Diane had left. She had started working at the library, not where Rebecca worked, but in the same city. Emma was visiting. Life went on for everyone, in different ways. And I, Harper Nicole Watson, have arrived at a profoundly simple yet profound realization. Living an unchosen life was painful, but living a life that could be chosen was a pure blessing. One morning I was in the backyard with Rebecca, gardening. I chose to plant flowers and get the soil in. David was placing his stones. Emma was on video laughing at me. Just a normal family, a normal day. "Are you happy?" Rebecca asked, squeezing my hand. I thought about it. Was I happy? No, it was still complicated. But was I okay? Yes. Was I safe? Yes. Did I have choices? Yes. Yes, I finally said. For the first time, really, yes. Rebecca smiled and hugged us. A mother who carried the weight of another's child for 32 years, searching for him, finding him, choosing to love him, and me, a lost, found, reborn girl. This story began 32 years ago, but the real story is just beginning, as Harper Watson. This story reminds us that events are not meant to destroy us, but to awaken us. The truth can be painful, but it also opens the door to a more conscious life. The past cannot be changed, but the direction of the future can always be redrawn. When a person recognizes their own worth, they also learn to protect their boundaries more clearly. Trust is not a weakness, but a natural part of being human. True strength lies in not losing self-respect even when trust is shaken. This closure is not an end, but the beginning of a new awareness. It is the first step on a journey to be more mindful, stronger, and more conscious.